Hello everybody, welcome back. We're back. We're doing more. We're doing another Warhammer World Gnarlwood's Champion tournament report here. Me and Charles, we were back up there. We did another event. They're doing them monthly, so I'm trying to go to as many as I can. And yeah, we're gonna go through it. Before I begin, please, if you actually like what I'm doing, remember to like and subscribe. And I'll do more, and maybe I can do some other stuff as well. But let's get into it. So, like I said, we've got Charles. If you want to say hello. Yeah, and
Uh,
oh, Charles.
yes, I'm
Yeah,
here.
yeah.
Uh,
Sorry. Yeah, we've got Charles. We both went up. It's kind of convenient for us to go up there to play this tournament almost. So we're trying to get in as much Warcry as possible before their big old event. That's going to be next month now. So we went up to get some practice in. But let us talk about it. It was the same. It was the same format as last time. So again, 1,000 points, 3 rounds. It was using the same event pack as last time. If you want to check out on my blog, I put details of that, and I'll put the link down below for that. If you want to see the missions and what it's played and how it's played, it was 8 players this time. As opposed to the how many was
16, I think it was.
16? Yeah, last time.
Yeah.
But that's basically because they really didn't advertise it um, this time round. I don't know if they forgot or if they didn't forget. But
They,
tickets.
they had like Golden Demon and things
Yeah,
in between it, and
exactly.
so
Yeah, and tickets only really went up on sale like 2 weeks before, so it was a bit of a short notice. Um, but it was a fun event either way. We're doing some new things this time round. So I brought Rotmire Creed. I partially because I painted the big bug dude that you can see at the back, and it was like, okay, well, I brought Nighthaunt last time, so let's do something a little bit different. Let's get a different perspective on the game going on. So the idea is I really wanted 3 bloated ones because statistically they're super good, and they're actually some of the best point for point models I think in the game almost. So I really wanted 3 of them. But Rotmire Creed are kind of, I mean, I don't want to say they're slow. They're 4-inch movement.
which is
But
average,
which
really.
is average, yeah. But if you want to go and grab objectives, you really need something quicker. So I decided to go for a Blissbringer, so the Slanesh Fiend hero, just for some extra speed. It's got more. It's got utility as well. It's got like a 2+ net to go with it. It can boost the damage on its attacks. So I thought it's cheap enough at 205 points. So we're gonna go with that. And on top of that, I had the Witherlord in there because it's Witherlord. The 3 bloated ones, 2 nets, and 1 claw. This was also a little bit of an experiment I was doing. Statistics tell me that the claw is better having double claws because you get 5 attacks at 2/4 damage, and that's all well and good. But the net, I think, is just it's versatile. So if you charge and then attack, what you can do instead is instead of getting 1 attack off, or 1 attack action off with the 5 attacks on the claws, you can go 4 attacks with the net bloated ones, and then you can use a net ability. And the net ability is on a double, you roll a dice. On a 3 or more, you net the person, but you also do the amount of damage that you roll to your opponent. So on the charge, the nets are actually better because in effect you get another attack that always hits on 3s that does at least 3 damage, which is better than the bloated one's base damage. So I was kind of messing around there, and then on top of that, to round that out, I brought the 3 outcasts because I thought, you know what, they got blowpipes. Blowpipes are cool. You see 4
And you just need
outcasts.
models. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you see 4 outcasts on the thing, but I didn't end up bringing the 4th one. Yes, that's this is what I ended up taking. Charles, what did you take?
So I took the Sylvaneth last time and
Yes.
didn't have a great time because of what we played against. So this time we went for basically the opposite end of the spectrum,
Yeah.
slow and steady and tanky as hell.
Yes.
So we took Nurgle Rotbringers Gallow Band with an allied Varangard, which is the Nurgle one on the horse, for something very fast and killy.
Yeah.
So
Super killy.
it was could we after we were trying to because we originally worked out you could bring like 8 eight plague Black Kings essentially if you just went all Black Kings, and then we worked out that we could take the Varangard and still 6 guys.
Yeah, because Varangard too slow. Not Varangard. Blight King's too slow. It's basically.
Yeah, but they actually weren't. The movement 3 wasn't as much as a disadvantage because the way the missions worked.
Yes.
It was still an odd one because you've only essentially got 6 inches if you do a double move rather than 8. So I was having to use. Well, I brought 2 Black Kings with bells, which have a 7-inch AOE on a double, which gives you +1 movement if you start a move. Essentially, within 7 of them. So
7's a long way on a
7.
board.
7 is quite a long distance, and in fact, on the first game, I used it with the Varangard because it affects all friendly models. So the Varangard had ran from one side of the bell to the other side, was still in range of the bell, and then got another 11-inch move afterwards. So it's actually a very large area you can affect with it.
Yes. Yes, and it's not that much expensive than a normal Blight King, really. It's what, 5 points?
He's 10 points more expensive than a normal Blight King. He only does 1/4 damage instead of 2/4, but he has an extra attack instead. Yes. So it kind of evened out. Again, you're really trying for those crits for that 4 damage.
Yeah, of course.
That was the major thing I found was they're generally 3 attacks, 2/4 damage, strength 4. And I was only doing like a couple of damage at a time, or I was getting like a crit and 2 hits and suddenly doing like 8 damage.
Yeah.
So they weren't doing a lot, but they weren't dying was the main thing.
You could take the hit, right? You could take a double attack from anything.
Big hits that would kill most things and just shrugging it off.
That 25 wounds, right?
And the Varangard, so it's 25 on all of them apart from the Varangard and the leader who are 30, and the Varangard was just literally running around murdering people when he could actually roll dice instead of rolling poorly.
Yes. When he hits, he hit hard.
Yeah. When he hit, he generally murdered people.
Yeah.
There was a couple of times where my dice just went against me. And the other thing is he's defense 6 with 30 wounds. He also just ties people up. And if they want to run away from him, he's going to catch them.
Yes.
So...
Yeah, it's like you don't want to be in combat with the Varangard because it'll, like, if it ever gets to attack you twice, you die.
Yeah.
I mean, this warband is actually, I didn't force you to bring it, but I kind of wanted to. It was kind of a test for me, really, because we all know that you pay through the nose for movement.
Yes.
Yeah. So I thought, right, is a majority 3 movement warband, is it so bad? Because there was a guy out there on Reddit. I'll put the link in the description again. That he did testing on all of the points values of all of the stats in Warcry, and it turns out that you do actually it's something like 10 points for every point of movement that you have. So this is kind of why Graveguard are kind of so cheap for what they do, because they're really slow. They're not paying that movement tax. And I thought, okay, how does that work in the context of a medium warband like Blight Kings? Like Rotbringers, sorry. And you kind of see it, and you have these 110 point models with a ton of wounds, good strength, good damage on their attacks, and they're just all around pretty good for the points you spend. And yeah, you can bring the bells to kind of mitigate that a little bit. So I thought, let's give this a try. Let's see if it's actually all that bad. 7 guys in a warband, it's not small by any means, and when you've got the amount of wounds and toughness Blight King has,
that's the thing. They were generally taking more damage than your average guy would take.
Yes.
And then they were surviving to generally hit back twice, lock down an area because suddenly they can't charge you and kill you because you got 25 wounds.
Yes, exactly.
And you can just tank it.
Yeah, exactly. And then, one more thing that we were testing with this is on the loadout of the Varangard. Now, normal logic says take the ensorcelled weapons because you get an extra attack and it does lots of damage. But what we found from the last game, the last event that we went to, was that there's a lot more toughness 4 stuff. And we took the strength 5 weapon or strength 6 weapon?
The demon forge, strength 5.
Strength
the demon
5.
forge blade.
Yeah, the demon forge blade, with the idea that 3 attacks hitting on 3s with better damage could be
Better
rather
than 4
better
attacks,
than 4 attacks hitting on 4s most of the time. And it was interesting, actually. It was interesting what we found out.
I think it worked quite well. The 3 dice, when it failed horribly.
Yeah, you wouldn't have hit anyway.
It was, yeah. But that's the thing, is like the thing is you're hitting on 3s, and I was rolling 1s and 2s, and it was terrible.
Yes.
But when he hit, things fell over because he was doing on average like 9 to like 11 damage or something.
And Varangard have a double anyway that can get them more attacks, so it doesn't really matter, I don't think. But the extra point of strength is nice. Right, so let's go into the games. So game 1, like I said, these are the missions from the Gnarlwood Champion pack that they released. We rolled up Loot and Pillage and Run Interference. So Loot and Pillage is the one where we've got 3 objectives, and that each one can be looted twice for treasure, and basically at the end of the battle you get 2 victory points for the amount of treasure that you have. And Run Interference, you basically get 3 points if you at the end of each round you gain 3 points if you have an objective your opponent controlled, or you killed a guy who had treasure tokens. So the idea is go and get your opponent's objectives, kill the guys with treasure, and you get more points to do it. Yes. So I was playing against Ogres, Ogre Kingdom, Ogre, sorry, Kingdoms. It was 3 lead. The guy he was testing out some stuff himself. Actually, he wanted to test out lead belchers to see if they're any good. So he had 3 lead belchers. The champion from the lead belcher kit, whose name kind of escapes me, and 5 Noblars. So it was a 9-man team, and it was fairly big. On turn 1, it just happened that my hammer was the Blissbringer, the Witherlord, and a bloated one, whereas he had 1 ogre and 2 Noblars. So I had him on speed and kind of utility on the board. So I kind of rushed the middle objective, tried to loot that twice. So once with the Blissbringer, once with the Witherlord. And then I went to the right-hand side to go and get the objective on the right, maybe on turn 2 or maybe on turn 3, because I knew I had some extra stuff coming in. Essentially, I lost the fight on the right-hand side because he had 2 ogres and like a Noblar turn up, and like I can't win that fight. But on the left, I had 2 bloated ones turn up versus 1 ogre, which is actually a really good trade for me. So I kind of won the fight in the center. I won the fight on the left-hand side. And then at the end of the game, I think it was 4 pieces of treasure to his 2 that he had. So I won. I won on the treasure, and throughout the game we both scored the same on Run Interference. I think the problem on his side was that because he was running lead belchers, he wanted to see how good the shooting was, and the shooting is fine. They do the same damage at range as they do in a fight, but he was really using his Noblar to try and get the objectives while the ogres did the work. But when I've got stuff like a Blissbringer and things that basically one-hit Noblars,
murder a Noblar, yeah,
it's very easy. Like I can tie up an ogre for a turn, and then I can just murder a Noblar, pick up his treasure, and then carry on my day. So that's kind of what I did there, and yeah, I ended up winning 14 to 8 victory points, which was pretty good. We did manage to draw on kill points as well, which was really funny. But yeah, I ended up winning that one.
So I was against Iron Golems, so one of the box teams. They're a whole toughness 4 warband, and they've also got quite a lot of wounds for a warband. Like I think the lowest they had was 15, which was on the dwarf.
Yeah, it's a pretty big warband as well.
Yeah, it's a 10 model warband. Yeah. I think it is 9-10 models. But yeah, I started with my hammer on the board, which was a Varangard, a guy with a bell, and a normal guy. And I basically moved the 2 Blight Kings towards the middle. He actually had his ogre, one of the whip people, and somebody else, and they moved up towards their middle. And the Vanguard was like, because the way the terrain was, um, it was the Knollwood terrain,
Mm.
which was arranged in like a diamond shape.
Ah, so it's
And I
almost it
was on
almost
this,
cordons off a part of the battlefield.
yeah, it cordons off the center of the board,
Yeah.
and basically because the Vanguard is too big, he can't technically fit under it.
Can't fit under the.
So he
Yeah.
did the great thing of I had the bell go on the left hand side first, and he rang it. I used a double to give the 7-inch aura. So the Varangard then ran basically all the way across his aura to the other side of it.
Mhm.
Started again. So he went basically towards the left hand where the shield is, and then he went to where the dagger is in his 2 moves.
So he zipped around almost the
So
entire battlefield.
my Vanguard, yeah, crossed the board on turn 1 next to his dagger, where in turn 2 his dwarf basically came on and engaged the Vanguard directly, and the other 2 stayed out of range and near the objective.
Hmm.
The Vanguard activated first, and the Vanguard has a double, which adds half of the value to his number of attacks on his next attack.
Yes.
So I used the double 5 to give myself +3 attacks. And with the 6 attacks, he rolled 5 hits and did 15 damage and just murdered the
Very
dwarf in
good.
1 hit.
Yeah, it's really what allows you to
So
charge attack and make sure
yeah,
you get a kill. That double.
yeah, and that was the thing. Is like, okay, well that's the dwarf dead, and
Mm.
seeing as I was sitting on top of the objective, I picked up on the treasure.
Yes.
Um, and that was like, okay, Varangard did his job. He worked correctly. He got 5 hits and just murdered a guy.
Yeah.
And like I was surprised, like the dwarf had 15 wounds. I'm like, okay, it's a lot of wounds for a single guy, really.
Well, he's movement 3 as
Um,
well, so you can't have everything.
well, yeah, but that's the thing. Is like, again, defense 4, movement 3.
Mm.
Sorry, defense 4, movement 3. Yeah,
Yes.
got it the right way around.
Yeah.
That's the thing with the Iron Golems. They're all very tough, and they actually have a high number of wounds. But yeah, and then my other 2, I had 2 Blight Kings come on by my dagger, who both basically just walked up and picked up a treasure each and made their way round to the hammer eventually, just to basically stay away from his shield. It turned
Slowly
into a bit of a
grinding.
fight. Yeah, so it turned into a bit of a grind in the middle where he managed to actually kill one of my guys with a treasure. But what happened afterwards was he couldn't get close enough to the treasure with another guy, so I disengaged from combat with one of my Blight Kings, moved to the other side of the treasure, and then started to move. And now because it's a treasure token, I automatically
Yes.
picked it up and I just
Yes.
walked away. And meanwhile, the Varangard, with help of another Blight King on the top corner, basically just killed the people they had there and just moved towards the middle. I managed to make him drop one of his guys die and drop a treasure. So we equaled on the secondary, and then at the end of the game, I was holding forward to his
Yeah.
2.
And that's the thing about Blight Kings, right? Once they get treasure, it's
Well, no,
very
he
difficult
only
to.
had 1. So yes, he only had 1 left at the end of the game. One holding at the
Yes.
end of the game.
Yes. But yeah, once Blight Kings get treasure, it's very difficult to get it off
Oh
them.
yeah, like he had to use both the ogre and his leader to try and kill my guy, but he was also using his reactions to reduce my crits to hits.
Aha.
Because when you're hitting with 2/4 damage, it is a real big difference. So
Yes.
he was using he used the reaction on his leader once when he shouldn't have. Because if he'd had the extra attack with his leader, he would have possibly killed my other guy. But also the Iron Golem's just very tough, very actually quite quick when they need to be, and quite killy. But yeah, the Nurgle resilience just kind of held out.
Yes.
And this worked perfectly. I could grab tokens, and it would make him come to me. So I could, if he did charge me, I then just go, okay, well, I'll make 2 attacks against you, possibly kill you back.
Yeah, exactly.
But
Nice.
yeah, Varangard did exactly what he was there for. He shot round the battlefield and just chased people down.
Yep. Very good. Very good. All right, so game 2, we played Supremacy, and we had Early Grave as our secondary. So quickly on Supremacy, you basically get 2 victory points for each condition that you fulfill at the end of each turn. So you get victory points if you hold 2 or more objectives, 3 or more objectives, or you have more than your opponent. And then at the end of the game, whoever has the most points wins. And we were playing an early grave, so kill the enemy leader. You get a bunch of extra points depending on what turn he dies in. So if he dies
the sooner you kill him, the more victory points.
If he dies on turn 1, you get 6 points, 5 points on turn 2.
Well, you get 5. You get 5 points if you kill him on one.
6 minus the battle round. I was playing against Legions of Chaos, so Bellacor's boys. He was playing with the Centaurian Marshal. He had whatever the leader is for Legions of Chaos, I can't remember its name, and then 2 axe guys and 3 shield. So Legion's fairly tough. You've got at least defense 4, defense 5 on the shield guys. The axe guys do a lot of damage, and the Centaurian is the Centaurian. It runs around and it goes, "Aha! I'm gonna eat you." So I started with 2 guys on the field versus his 3. So effectively, he managed to get 3 objectives versus my 2 on the first turn. Though once turn 2 rolled around, I managed to flip it around, and I essentially managed to score 6 victory points, whereas he only scored 2 victory points. So by the end of turn 2, it was all even. The Centaurian Marshal had the same problem that your Varangard had in turn 1. It was kind of blocked off by the bridges, null with bridges. So it was in his hammer, and if we look on the map, just south of the hammer on the right hand side, there's an objective kind of in the middle of that table half, and there was effectively like a cordoned off area of bridges around there, and he couldn't go directly into that area, which was pretty good. It just means that it takes him far longer to get anywhere on that side of the battlefield. So that kind of worked in my favor, and that kind of kept him out of the fight for a while, at least 2 turns, because he came on round 2, and then round 3 he was moving. He did kill a guy on round 3 because he's got big old range on his attacks.
Yeah, he's got 3 range, doesn't he?
Yeah, but when you cost that much and you're only killing 1 guy or 2 guys during a game, it's not all that great. And of course, because he's mounted, he can't get over the bridges. He can't just climb anything. So that kind of worked for me. The interesting thing was, he managed to kill an outcast because he's got big range, and then on turn 4 it was like, okay, well, I'm going to try and go for leader. So he ran into my Witherlord. Witherlord has 20 wounds and defense 4, so he's actually pretty tanky, and he failed just to kill my Witherlord, which saved me from that dying, from him getting the extra points there, which was pretty good. Not my Seeker, my Blissbringer was very underwhelming. I kind of ran him into an axe guy. I used the Blissbringer's double to get him extra damage. Is it double or a triple? I think it's a triple, actually, to get him extra damage, so he can add the damage on the dice, basically, to his attacks, to his normal and his crits. I failed to kill the axe guy, and then the Blissbringer just took a bunch of hits, took 20 wounds, and on turn 2 he died. Or turn 3 rather, he died and he kind of fell over. So that was very underwhelming for the Blissbringer. No one managed to score to kill the leader, so no one scored that. And yeah, I just ended up winning 20 victory points to 12, just by sheer ability to keep objectives. Bloated ones are 18 wounds apiece, and they hit pretty hard, so it's not really something you want to just engage with. The normal guys were kind of just running around the battlefield doing whatever they were doing, and I think this was the first game where the nets really came into play, because when you've got a guy coming on the battlefield, he gets charged by a bloated one, use a double for the net, do 3 or 4, maybe even 5 damage, and then swing with your 4 attacks at 2/4. It's pretty good. I really appreciate the nets in this game.
Yeah. My game, this is where the 7-man team kind of hurts a bit when there's 6 objectives.
Yes.
Because you kind of have to spread your guys too thin to
You've
really
got to pick
counter.
and choose what you're going to do.
Yeah. So I was against Splintered Fang, but he didn't bring any serpents, and he brought a Chaos Sorcerer
Yes.
I'm not actually sure which one, but he bought a Chaos Sorcerer hero.
It's the Chaos Sorcerer Lord he brought, because I
Lord,
played him in
that's
the
it,
next game, so I've got his thing.
Yeah. Which was okay. It kind of didn't really help because it has a spell that gives like +1 attack and +1 or +1 strength and +1 damage. The problem
Yes.
is he
Something
was using it to attack the Varangard, who's defense 6, which made no difference. So this one, I started with 2 Blight Kings on my dagger on the board, and I basically split one left and one right. He started with 3 people on the board, and he didn't realize that he had objectives either side of him, even though he set them up. So he
Nice.
sent 2 guys to one corner where the shield was,
Mm.
and 1 guy towards the middle one on the shield side.
Okay, so he was
Completely
just
forget-
looking for middle objectives, basically.
Well, he went for one. He sent 1 guy to a middle, and he sent 2 to the one by the shield. Because he knew I was going to have 2 Black Kings come on the shield.
Yeah.
And he wanted to stay away from the hammer where the Varangard was.
Yes, of course.
He completely forgot there was an objective there, so we both scored like 2 points on turn 1. Because I basically had my left and right ones where I should have maybe sent 1 towards the middle to counter his 1 guy.
Yeah.
Then turn 2, so my Black Kings turned up on my shield and they basically just waddled over the objective. But he had 2 guys, so that was a moot point. His shield came on in the corner where I only had 1 guy, so it was a very much not looking so good. But I had the Varangard come on and the hammer, and I'd rolled a quad.
Nice.
So the Varangard is on basically a 3-inch base. So he deployed in the corner facing the hammer, from the hammer to the shield. He moved, onslaughted across into people, and he failed to kill his leader by 2 damage.
Oh no.
If I'd scored 1 additional hit with his, so he did the onslaught attack and then he did a normal attack. And if I'd rolled 1 more hit, I would have killed his leader outright on turn 2.
Yeah.
But he just failed to kill him. But the Varangard literally crossed the board in a turn.
Nice.
Because he kind of deployed right up from the shield, like as far as he could. I then had 1 guy go towards the point by the shield and by the hammer, and the other one tried to go towards the middle one. But there was a big bit of terrain between where the hammer was deployed and where the center marker was. So with only a 6-inch move, I was having to go right round.
Yeah.
So, so on turn 2, he had 3 of the points, and I only ended up having 1 point. So I didn't score anything, which actually hurt me a lot.
Yeah, I mean, it would have at least drawn you the game if you had 1 more.
Well, that's the thing. If I'd had 1 more, it would have been a draw rather than a loss. Yeah, and then the next turn, I basically managed to clear off the point where the hammer the shield was. I kept my guy on the hammer. The other guy moved to the center point on the hammer side. The Varangard again failed to kill people spectacularly because I was hoping with him because I also rolled another quad. So, I rolled a quad and added a wild die. Rolled a triple and added a wild die. So the plan was he was in combat with 3 guys. The plan was to finish murdering the Split Fang Lord, then kill the Chaos Lord, and then charge his guy who was by the center objective.
To time up.
Yeah, but then I whiffed my first attack, killed the Lord on the second attack, and it was like, I don't really want to use this quad for this now because it's not really going to do anything. So I saved the quad for a different fight.
Yes. Would you have found that if he had an extra attack but at -1 strength, would that have actually made a difference there?
No, because I was rolling 1s and 2s when I was missing, and if I was strength 4 instead of strength 5, there was attacks where I was hitting on 3s that I wouldn't have hit.
Sure.
So I still think having strength 5 and hitting on 3s with the 3/6 damage as well, because it's like you roll a hit and a crit and you do 9 damage, and most people go ouch. And it was like I say, his Lord had 2 wounds remaining. I needed a single hit on 3 dice on 3s, and I rolled a 1/1/2.
Sure.
And it was just like, well, nothing I can do about that. Have to waste a second attack on him. My Lord actually had gone towards where his hammer came on, which was just 2 guys. And they eventually took him down on start of round 3. So we both scored like the same number of points for killing leader on the same turn. but he just held an extra objective for where he held 3 on one turn, and he also held more than me,
Sure.
pushed him ahead.
Sure.
But we basically, because of the amount of time it took, we only got 3 rounds out of the game.
Ah.
If it had gone to a 4th round, he only had one guy in the bottom right by the objective. He had one guy by the middle, but had a Blight King, and he had 2 guys by the bottom left objective. So if it had gone to round 4, I would have probably held 3 and then held more than him, and he would have only held 1 or 2
Sure.
objectives.
Sure.
And it would have then swung to a win to me.
Yeah, I mean, it was at the end of round 3, 9 to 11 victory points. It's super close anyway.
Yes, yeah, that's it. If it had gone to round 4, I'd basically murdered everything that was in the bottom corner. And it was just one of those ones of like, okay, one more turn, and I would have just moved on to multiple objectives and held them all.
Sure.
And it was just one of those ones where we just ran out of time. So it was just a loss. I think I'd only lost... Did I actually? Yeah, I'd only lost my leader. Was the only thing that actually died.
And he's relatively cheap, isn't he? He's like 125
145
points. 145, yeah.
145, yeah. That's the only thing that died.
Sure.
Like, he tried to kill me, but like the Varangard like tied up all 3 of his guys that came on from his shield, and he was like, he couldn't really hurt me because I was defense 6, so he's looking at 5. He's looking at 5s.
Defense 6 and 30 wounds, right?
He also was using they do actually have a stratagem, ability where they count their strength as above yours, but he didn't have it for when attacking the Varangard.
Right.
And like I say, he tried to use the Sorcerer Lord spell. He used it on his leader, and then was like, "Wait a second, that only puts me up to strength 5." And it's like, "Well, I'm still defense 6, so you're still winning me on 5s."
Yeah, nice.
And he was like, after the game, he was like, "Yeah, I shouldn't have brought the Sorcerer Lord. He should have brought some snakes to give him some extra mobile." Things.
Yes. I mean, but snakes are really expensive now anyway.
Well, that's the thing, yeah. But like I say, this mission, because it has 6 objectives and you need to try and hold 3 of them, only having 7 models really pushes you to either double down and go, right, okay, well, I'm going to send people to these ones, and I'm just going to hold these ones.
Yes. It's like you try and hold 2 or 3, and then you just have to send a guy hunting.
Exactly. And like, if I'd done it a little bit better, I would have maybe done that and sent the Varangard round. And like I say, if we actually had an extra turn, it would have flipped and I would have won. Yeah. I would have got like another 4 or 6 points, and he would have only got maybe 2 points.
Sure. Nice.
So it would have flipped to like a 15-13 possibly, or like a 13-11. So it's one of those ones. It was a very tight game, but yeah, we only got 3 rounds.
Sure. All right, nice.
Again, Varangard did exactly what he had to do.
Varangard MVP.
He crossed the board in a turn and literally almost murdered his leader. So
yeah, nice.
The Varangard really helps.
Cool. All right, so game 3. Game 3 was Tides of Battle and Strong Arm the Competition. So Tides of Battle is the one where you have 6 objectives, but then you have primary and secondary objectives. So the guy who doesn't have the initiative gets to pick a primary objective, pick an objective to be your primary, and you essentially get 2 victory points for the primary, 1 for the secondary at the end of each battle round, and whoever has the most points wins. And in Strong Arm the Competition, we played this last time around when we were here. It's the one where more wounds in the middle of the battlefield. Essentially, whatever your wounds characteristic is, if you're in the middle, you get 3 victory points if you win that. All right, I played Splintered Fang, which was the same guy Charles played in the last round. And yeah, so he had the Chaos Sorcerer Lord ally for Demonic Power, which is +1 attack and +1 strength. A True Blood, a Venom Blood with the Whip, a Venom Blood with the Spear, and then it's like Clear Bloods and Pure Bloods. I think he was running 10 fighters, which is pretty big, actually. Even against my Rotmire Creed. My Rotmire Creed are, I think, 7 guys as well.
It might have actually been 9 that he had.
9, okay,
yeah.
Yeah, so, sorry, my Rotmire Creed are 8 guys, so he still out-activated me. Because... like, I made my dagger almost purposefully weak for this event. It was basically 2 guys, two of my normal, like, 65-point dudes. So, yeah, he came on with 3 guys, I came on with 2 guys. So I thought, alright, well, I'm not going to be able to win the objective battle on turn 1. So I'm gonna try and win the secondary battle, because even with a primary objective and a secondary objective, that's only 3 points. Whereas if I take the center of the battlefield and I have a secondary objective, that's 4 points. So I can kind of get ahead doing it that way, and it kind of worked out. Even my basic guys have 10 wounds, so it's not exactly like they're bad. And yeah, the game kind of devolved into two big fights around our hammers and our shields. The Blissbringer, I'm really sad about the Blissbringer. It basically did what it did last game: run in, boost its strength, boost its number of damage by a bit, and then swing. It again failed to kill, and then got thwacked back twice. And it takes a lot of damage, and on the next turn, if you don't have priority, the Blissbringer basically dies. It's really a problem with that strength 3, I think. I know it's got a lot of attacks, and the attacks can do a lot of damage, but when you're wounding on 5s most of the time, it's not all that fantastic. Yeah. The bloated one nets again did super well, like 3 to 6 damage on the charge plus their 4 attacks. Especially when they were attacking into defense 5 on the Venom Bloods, having that net ability that just does flat damage that you don't even need to roll. Oh, you roll, but you know, just flat damage is super good. I was really surprised by the damage output of his fighters, because most of them are like 4 crit damage, and when they're hitting,
that's what I found.
Yeah, like... they're just doing a lot of damage on most of the warband actually. So I was super surprised.
Let's say in the last game he had 3 guys come in, and just like my leader just died in 2 rounds.
Yeah, just melts, right?
Like 30 wounds in 2 rounds. It was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, normally that doesn't happen to a Rotbringer. So yeah, that was super surprising. I won the game eventually because his Venom Blood with Whip moved just out of 3 inches of the center to go kill one of my extra guys, so he didn't get the extra 3 victory points. But again, we ended on turn 3. I mean, I was going through at a fair pace, but we ended on turn 3. And again, if it went into turn 4, it would have been very different, because I just had, like, he killed a lot of stuff, but most of his kills were like the Blissbringer, which is like 205 points, and I think he killed like a bloated one. But I had enough stuff on the board to go and either retake objectives or retake the center of the battlefield if we went into turn 4. Witherlord almost got MVP. So what he did on turn 3, he murdered one of his my opponent's hammer. It was just like a normal guy, and I used a double to get the Rotmire Creed potion, whatever it's called, and the potion allows you to when you need to roll a value of a dice, you're allowed to use a 6. So I had the Witherlord run into his leader, who only had 15 wounds left at this point, because he'd been fighting a little bit. Turn my 111 into a 666 for the lethal injection, and as long as I roll, so the way the lethal injection works is you roll a dice equal to the value of the ability, and if you roll above your opponent's toughness and any of those dice, you do 5 wounds. So because I moved to get to him, if I managed to roll 3 5s or 6s, he would have just died in one hit from the lethal injection. That would have been super fun. But my dice left me at that point, so I only did 5 damage to him on like turn 3. He would have most definitely died next turn. But that was really funny. Overall, I won 15 to 14 victory points. But like I said, if it went on for turn 4, I think I could have swung it even further.
Yeah. So my final round was against Untamed Beasts, being played by Phil Kelly, and again it ended being it's just some guy who writes games.
Yeah.
But it was a really good game. It was super close towards the end, but again I was on the same board I was on in round 1, which had the Diamond of Terrain. So again it kind of was gonna cause issues with a lot of movement for both of us, because some of the Untamed Beast guys are a bit tall in places.
Yeah.
But we both had on our my dagger again is relatively weak. It's just 2 guys. But this is where I screwed up because I didn't think about it, and I I moved towards the 2 center objectives to basically grab one of each, get a center objective each side. But I didn't put either of my guys close enough to the center.
To get the
And
because
to
that's where you're
get the
really
center
good
points.
because you got like 25
Yeah.
wounds apiece.
I like Phil basically moved one guy towards the center to grab the center, and then he moved off to he moved one left and one right basically to grab 2 objectives. I'd I was going second, so I put one of the center objectives as the primary. So I did score the extra point for that on the first turn, but then I lost out 3 points from the secondary.
Yes.
I was like, after we'd done it, I was like, oh yeah, I should have just literally, if I'd moved a guy slightly closer, he would have got the middle and got the objective and scored me like more points. But I rectified that in the next rounds. Because with 25 wounds on my basic guys, it would take at least 2 of his to beat one of my guys.
Yeah.
So my my Varangard in the next round came on in the top corner, and basically charged into his shield guys and held them up for basically 3 turns. They couldn't kill him. He was slowly working his way through them. Whereas everyone else basically was just walking towards other objectives and bundling into the center.
Sure.
And it was just one of those slow grinds of everything basically worked its way towards the center. We were both controlling some of the objectives, and actually we both had priority twice, so we both got to choose a one to be the primary objective and the others to be secondary. So that actually evened out on points, and it was literally just in the final turn, the Varangard moved where he was on the side where the shield was to try and get to the center, and because he had to go right round the terrain and under the bridge, which as we were playing, Phil's guys had basically moved under bridges where they shouldn't have been able to get under, so which we'd also been told in the previous event was going to be coming in an FAQ.
Yes, so that could be something. We don't know how it's going to work. Probably something about the height of the bridges and the size of the model.
Yeah,
whatever.
Something like that. But again, it's so like Phil didn't have any issue. My guys coming in, but my Varangard just failed to get. He needed 1 more inch of movement, and he would have got within an inch of the center.
Yeah,
because Phil had also placed a guy so that I was going to get in combat with a guy, and I was trying to get as far around it as I could between the model and the terrain, and I just couldn't get far enough around to get to the center, and it ended something like I had 50 wounds, and he had 62 after he literally threw everyone he had left, including the cat that had 20 wounds. I was like, the first time like I attacked the cat, I was like, oh, okay, yeah, should be. I did like 12 damage, I think. I was like, oh yeah, this guy's going to hit. It's like, oh, that's like 12 damage.
This should be enough.
Oh, it's still alive. It's like, wait, how many wounds you got? 20. It's like, what? It's like, holy crap, it's really tanky. And again, that's the thing with the Untamed Beasts. They're a vanilla Warcry warbrand, and they all have like defense 4. They've all got like 4 or 5 inch movement. The cat has 8 inches, and they've all got like a good number of wounds. They're just very, very solid.
Yeah.
And I think they also have a similar reaction to the Nurgle, which is you -1 damage on hits.
Yes.
Which apparently is hits and crits, even though it says -1 damage to hits.
Yeah, and this is coming literally straight from the designer's mouth. So.
Yeah, and I was like, are you sure that's right? And he was like, well, we'll ask the referee, and the ref said, yeah, no, it's -1 on both. Yeah. So
that's one of the advantages of playing out Warhammer World after work is done.
Yeah, when you literally have the people who write the rules there.
Yeah,
it's kind of like, yeah, no, it's this. Because again, like I say, the ability says you -1 damage from hits, and both a hit and a critical hit are a hit, but they are 2 separate things in the rules. They are crits and hits.
Yeah.
But apparently it does apply to both, and that's the same for Nurgle and Untamed Beasts.
So it's very likely that's going to be a clarification coming up whenever.
Yeah, because that was the other thing is Phil was using a lot of his reactions to negate damage from my guys because they're base 2 damage. So he wasn't actually doing a lot of damage back to me, but he was taking less when I was hitting him.
I mean, it's a
which
smart
is the only
move,
thing
really.
that actually kept his guys alive.
Yeah, it's a smart move. If he outnumbers you and it's about capturing objectives, and he knows it's very difficult to kill you, then just keep your guys alive if you can.
Yeah, that was the thing. We were actually pretty even on objectives for a lot of it, apart from the below where the shield is. Phil had sent one guy down there just to basically go and hold it and grab it. After I'd kind of semi-won the middle on like turn 2, I'd sent one Blight King straight towards it to try and get it, but I couldn't get close enough.
Yeah.
And this is where, again, the Varangard kind of failed. He was in combat with 2 guys. He killed one, but he was just taking too long to kill them because, again, I'd rolled another triple into a quad, and it was like, right, the plan is murder this guy, rampage over there, murder another guy. And he just didn't roll the dice.
He just didn't. He didn't want to.
Like, when you roll the dice, it's fantastic, and he just murders people straight off as well. Like I say, Phil was using the -1, so he goes from 3-6 to 2-5.
Yeah,
and that was what was keeping his guy alive. Just the
that
hits
extra small amount, just a tiny bit.
And like his guy wasn't attacking me back, so he wasn't doing any damage and couldn't go anywhere. But he was preventing himself from dying, which was the very smart move.
Yeah, and for the Varangard, it's either disengage and run somewhere else, or just keep trying to hack at the guy.
And well, I was hoping to, because also I used one attack with the double to get another 3 attacks.
Yeah.
And again, he just whiffed the damage into him and only hit like twice, and it's like,
wow,
come on, six dice on 3s, come on. And that's really it. When the Varangard failed, it failed hard, but when it worked fantastic.
Sure.
But yeah, it ended in an 18-20 just because I couldn't get the Varangard to the middle.
Yes, and if on the first turn you managed to pick up that extra 3 points as well.
If I got the extra 3 points on the first turn, it would have been
like a 21,
like 21, 17, or 18, something like that. But that was me. I just completely forgot what the actual secondary was until we'd actually, at the end of the round, we were counting up, and it's like, oh, yeah, I should have moved towards the middle, should have I? Yeah. Yep. With my 25 wounds, that would have just beat any of his guys.
Ha. Nice.
But yeah, it was very, again, a loss, but a very, very close loss.
Okay, cool. So yeah, what happened? You can see it. I won the event with my 3 wins. I also won the painting contest, so I got 2 massive pieces of glass that I had to ship back from Nottingham with me.
Yeah.
I think overall it was fine. I think, from my side of thing, the Blissbringer hugely underperformed. It's that strength 3 really, and I think in an average toughness 4 environment, I might start looking at something with less attacks, but with an easier time to wound. So this goes back. I was talking about it a little bit last time. Because I play Nighthaunt mainly, and I was thinking about Executioners. And Executioners only have 2 attacks, but it's like a strength 6 with a bunch of damage. So I thought, well, is strength 6 wounding on 3s with a really good damage better than a lot of strength 3 attacks? When, at least this is what I'm seeing, and it may just be local Nottingham meta, I'm seeing a lot of toughness 4. Because I think wounding on 3s versus wounding on 5s most of the time is just super good. I think.
Well, I think the whole thing with it as well is we're seeing a lot of the box warbands, and they all do just seem to be toughness 4 across the board almost. Like barring like a couple
they're
of
very
like
similar. All
your
the box
chaff
warbands.
guys. You may have like a couple of chaff guys who are toughness 3, but generally you're all like toughness 4. So strength 3 is a real liability unless you have like an insane number of attacks with very high damage.
Yes, and even if you kind of get away from the box warbands, if you look at some of the other events that have been going on, apart from like Soulblight Gravelords, a lot of that stuff has good defense that you want to try and kill. So you kind of want to be able to wound stuff on 3s. Like, all monsters are basically defense 4. So if you have strength 5, you're automatically in a decent spot for that.
Yeah, well, wounding monsters on threes is great because you can just chew through their huge pool of wounds.
Yeah.
But again, we weren't seeing anyone really bring. Again, it might just be our area. No one really brought monsters. The biggest thing we've seen is a centaured marshal.
Yes. But we'll see. We'll see next month as to what exactly.
Yeah, at the
happens with that.
actual big event. Yeah.
Yeah. I would go on.
I was gonna say I might take the Nurgle again.
So the speed isn't so bad, is it? Like
it wasn't so bad in these missions where you're actually coming on generally near objectives. The speed wasn't an issue. I need to double check on the actual missions.
Yes.
To see if it would be because again the Sylvaneth was designed with the rulebook missions
the match play missions, the proper ones.
With like, oh well, you're going to need to cover a very large distance in a few turns, so having like the movement abilities.
Yeah.
But I think again the Nurgle can do a lot of very much. Well, I'm just going to move towards you. You're not going to kill me, and I'll just contest and win eventually.
Yeah. Cool. Yes, that's. I don't think so. I think in these missions especially, I think it's okay to have strength movement 3. It's not terrible. I mean, you can boost it anyway with +1 move.
Yeah, exactly. It's not exactly a massive downside. And again, you can spend a double on a guy to get +1 move on each move.
On a huge that 7 inches is massive.
Well, I mean, just generally on a normal for a normal double.
Of course you can.
+1 move.
Yes.
So if you really need to move, like if you've used a double on the bell and then you use a double on the guy, he suddenly goes to a 10-inch double move.
Yes.
And he can cross the board pretty quickly.
Exactly.
I mean,
I think on my side of things, so I was testing the Rotmire Creed, and there's been basically a debate going on as to whether they're actually good or not. I think Rotmire Creed are pretty good. But like I've said this before elsewhere, that with the ally system, it doesn't really matter almost what your base warband is, because you can fill any tactical holes that you may have. So I thought
Vanguard was great.
Vanguard was great. Blissbringer was terrible, but hopefully maybe something else that punches a little bit harder would be better. But as they are, I think they're pretty good. I think the nets. They do a lot of good work for 140 points, to be honest.
Because they also do the net and they do damage.
They do the net and the damage. It's not just like it's a normal damage net. So I'm pretty happy bringing 2 of the nets and 1 of the claws as opposed to like 3 claws or something. Now, unfortunately, our Soulblight Gravelord player decided to bring something else. He was a guy with the ogres this time around. Yeah. So I really wanted to test them in that matchup to see what they can do. But that's just going to have to be something for another time. I thought that the blowpipes were going to be really good, but at the end of it, it was just like I'd rather use my double on nets to roll 1 dice and on a 3 do a bunch of damage, than use double on blowpipes to roll 2 dice and on a 4 do 2 damage. So I think maybe the basic guys, I don't know, maybe they want to be defense 4. Maybe I take the shields instead of those. But they're basically there as just like throwaway chaff at this point. Like they don't really achieve all that anything.
If you're bringing them as throwaways, you probably want them either as cheap as possible or to tie somebody up, so the defense 4 just means it's harder for them to be killed.
Might be better, yeah. And yeah, that's it really from my insight into Rotmire Creed. If you got anything else to add there, Charles, with the Rotbringers?
Mostly, again, it's the speed isn't so much of an issue depending on the mission. The low model count does hurt on multi-objective missions.
Yes,
but it can be offset by just their tankiness, and you can hold an objective well.
Yeah, I mean, you could have run 9 Rotbringers. That was an opportunity.
But I think the Varangard
or 8 Rotbringers. Sorry.
The Varangard was better than 2 because he had the speed to go where he needed to do. He had the damage just to punk people.
Yeah. And if you're going to bring this next month, would you keep the Strength 5 weapon, or would you go for the extra attacks?
I'd probably keep the Strength 5 weapon because, again, everything I thought was Defense 4 generally. Yeah. So, wounding on 3, when you already got 3 dice, you need as much, like, the best wounding as you can.
Yeah.
And again, if I had 4 dice and they're wounding on 4s, there was, well, when I attacked the dwarf, I rolled I rolled like at least 3 3s in my 5 dice.
Sure. Okay. And
And
they
I
would have
wouldn't
just been
have killed
flat out
him.
misses.
Yeah, I wouldn't have killed him if I was using the other weapon.
Yes.
So I would have had 1 extra dice, but I wouldn't have killed him. Whereas the Demon Forge Blade, I got 5 hits, and it's just like, well, he's dead.
Sure. Okay.
So yeah, I would definitely take the higher, especially because he's so mobile. You can get him where he needs to go.
And he can
you
get more
definitely take
attacks
the
anyway.
strength up.
He's got.
Well,
Double,
yeah, that's the thing. If you get a good double, so if you get a 5, really you're looking for a double 5 or double 6, but even a double 3 or 4 gives you an extra 2 attacks. Suddenly, 5 dice at strength 5 with 3/6 damage is a lot of people have to look very worried because you rolled like 1 or 2 crits in that, and that's 12 damage straight off.
Sure.
So he can very much kill most things dead in maybe 1 or 2 hits.
Yeah, because I've heard some of the feedback on Varangard, and they're saying, oh, it's a bit underwhelming. It doesn't really do what you would want for 285 points. But that is Varangard with blades versus.
But it also depends on what the rest of your warband's doing.
Sure. Yeah.
Like he is very much a hammer in this warband. Yeah. He goes somewhere and he smacks somebody.
Yeah. And it's a thing your opponent has to play around. Like,
well, that's the thing is in round 2, the guy basically completely left my hammer corner alone because the Varangard was coming on there, and he was like, "I am staying as far away as I can.
I can't fight this."
The Varangard still crossed the board in 1 move.
Yes,
essentially. So there is very little places you can hide from a Varangard.
Sure.
It has essentially a 20-inch double move.
Yeah.
And realistically, if you have a quad, there is almost nowhere you can hide on the board unless you're on top of something.
Yeah, on a building.
That's 30 inches of pure movement with an attack.
Sure. Nice.
So.
Okay, cool. All right. So overall, it was a pretty good event. I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I won the thing, but I enjoyed it.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
And yeah, so we're looking forward to next month. Next month is going to be the big boy. I don't know how many players they got coming, but some tickets have opened up. We've been told. So if you're around Nottingham,
we're not sure if they added more or if some tickets were returned. But we were assuming it was going to be between 40 and 60 tickets originally.
Yes.
So it could have possibly even gone up to maybe 80.
Yeah, 40 to 60, not 14 to 16.
Yeah, 40 to 60.
Yeah, exactly.
But it could possibly even be as high as maybe 80 if they've opened up more tables.
And that'd be super fun, I think. That'll be like the biggest Warcry event, I think, that's ever been run here.
Yeah.
So that's going to be interesting. I'm going to bring Nighthaunt to that, I think. That'll be cool. And yeah, it was also interesting to hear from the horse's mouth, as they say, about how some things should be working in Warcry. So yeah, we're looking forward to some kind of errata or FAQ soon.
We had at the last event that there should be an FAQ out at some point.
Yeah.
It's been a month and it still hasn't been out. So
yeah. So hopefully before
November.
Yeah, exactly. But we'll see. We'll see how it is. Yeah. So far, not much big has come out. So it's tight game so far. But yeah, that's it. That's it from us. We will be back next month to go over this other event. And yeah, thank you very much for watching. Like I said before, if you like what I'm putting out, please do like and subscribe. It gives me some impetus as to what to record and what to do next. And yeah, we will see you later.